Thoughts on this deal to start with, just signed?
Well, it's too little too late. The Conservatives have had years to get a grip of this issue. It's welcome, of course, that they're now speaking with France in a more constructive way, but they're talking about the patrols going up from 200 to 300, and yet the number of interceptions needs to go up from 42% to 75% to actually make a difference and break the business model of the people smugglers. So the jury's out on whether that's going to work. And it doesn't get to the heart of the issue, which is a massive backlog in our asylum processing system with over 10,000 asylum seekers waiting more than 3 years. And that is actually acting as a pull factor for the people smugglers and people trying to come over on small boats, because they know if they get here, they'll be years before their claim even gets processed. So that's the real issue at the heart of this. We also need to see far more resources going into the National Crime Agency so that they can work upstream and break the model of the people smugglers working upstream. We would pay for that by scrapping the unworkable, unethical and unaffordable Rwanda scheme.
OK, but what would you do about trying to stop them coming across the channel in the first place? Because, of course, the 2K agreement was a Labour agreement with the French, the treaty, I should say, and that's not worked.
Well, the heart of this issue is the broken asylum processing system. That's a magnet, because so many of the people smugglers and people wanting to come across know that they'll be here for years before their claim even gets heard. So we would resource the Home Office properly so that they can clear that backlog, so that it's not costing £6 million a day to the British taxpayer to put asylum seekers into hotels. Clear that backlog, and I think a lot of the pull factor would go. In addition, resource the National Crime Agency properly. We would put 100 specialists into a new elite unit, working with Europol and the French and the Belgians and others to actually break the people smugglers model upstream. There's none of that in this announcement that the government has made today. It looks really like more of the same.
So Robert Jenrick was right then when he said that people are coming over in order to stay in nice hotels?
Well, I think people are coming over for a variety of reasons. Let's not forget that 75% of those who come and claim asylum, their claims are successful and they are given asylum. But there is certainly a percentage who are coming here as economic migrants, and they shouldn't be claiming asylum on that basis. I don't think there's that many people who dream of being left in limbo in the British system for years and years, but there are many, of course, who melt away into the underground economy and they seek to make new lives for themselves. But we cannot have a system where people are claiming asylum when they're not legitimate asylum seekers, and then they're just staying in the system for years. So that's fundamentally what needs to be sorted out. That's the hard yards, the nitty-gritty of getting government right. But we've seen this revolving door of chaos in successive Conservative governments. I think we've all lost count of how many Home Secretaries we've had, how many Prime Ministers we've had. And when you've got that kind of chaos, it's little wonder that they've lost grip of the Home Office and they've lost a grip on the asylum processing system.
Talk to me about ID cards. You suggested it, I believe, was quite a good idea. And then your boss, the Shadow Home Secretary, said absolutely not.
I think if you look really carefully at what I said, I was saying that it's obviously an idea that's been looked at and debated, but it is not a priority for us. And Yvette made that very clear. So there's no difference between Yvette and I on that point, which is that it's... Look, it's not a priority for us now. The key thing for us now is to look at the broken asylum processing system, get the National Crime Agency sorted out, have a proper deal with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees so that we can have safe and legal routes for people, get our aid system working back up to 0.7% so we can actually stop some of these issues at source. Those are the top priorities. My comments in that interview were about an idea that's been around for a long time, but it is not a priority. It's simply not a priority for us now.
Just to get it.
ID cards are a way of registering people and looking at a system which ensures that you've got clarity about who is here and who's in the country. And one of the things I said was, of course, after the Brexit referendum, we had issues around the number of EU citizens that were applying for settled and pre-settled status. But that's not really the issue that we're talking about right now, which is about this deal with France and whether or not it's going to stop asylum.
I'd moved on from that, and I just wondered whether you thought it impacted on people's human rights, or whether, as Tamara put it to me in the office this morning, you need to give most of your information if you're buying a wardrobe online anyway. So does it actually make any difference?
Well, as Yvette made clear, the issue we have is there are lots of forms of ID in this country: national insurance number, passport, driving licence, but they're not being enforced properly. So we're not having the situation needs to be where employers and landlords and others are actually asking people for ID and checking they are who they say they are. We need a single enforcement agency in this country. At the moment, there's a kind of alphabet soup of different agencies that are enforcing all of this. Let's get the enforcement right. Let's get the asylum issues right and fix our broken system that's been broken by 12 years of Conservative incompetence. And I think the conversation about the ID cards is a conversation for another day.
I think you're saying that they're still a good idea, though, aren't you? Talk to me about the autumn statement. The longest-serving health secretary that we've known in modern times, of course, was Jeremy Hunt, who is now the Chancellor. Do you think he will look favourably on trying to salvage what's left of our poor health service?
Well, we certainly hope so. We understand that spending on the NHS will be protected. Of course, spending has to go with reform. But what you fundamentally have is you need to have an NHS which is underpinned by a strong economy. And after 12 years of Tory failure and then 12 weeks of complete chaos with the disastrous mini-budget, people have just lost confidence in the government's ability to manage the economy. And so they're boxed in now. They're either looking at these tax increases or yet more austerity and public spending cuts. Those decisions, those choices are fundamentally because they have failed to manage our economy and they have crashed it in the last few months with, reports saying that mini-budget cost the British taxpayer £30 billion. It is absolutely extraordinary. So the NHS is not safe in their hands. The British economy is not safe in their hands. That's actually why we need a general election, because we have a Prime Minister that doesn't have a mandate, and they have failed to give the British people the confidence and the trust that we need to have in our economy moving forward. That means a proper long-term growth plan. It means fair taxation. It means closing loopholes. It means stopping non-dom status. It means removing all of the loopholes for the big multinationals. So Labour putting forward a fair taxation plan.
And you have to win the general election before that.
We certainly do, yes.
Do you think that Jeremy Corbyn should be allowed to stand as a Labour MP?
I think that Keir has made it clear that Jeremy's comments after the report on anti-Semitism were not in line with our values, and he therefore had to remove the whip from Jeremy Corbyn. And if Jeremy and Keir can come to an agreement whereby Jeremy apologises in the correct way for the comments that he made, then I'm sure that Keir would be open to having that conversation, because Keir has said that himself. But Jeremy has made it clear that he's not going to apologise, and I think that really leaves us in the situation that we're in.
So the answer is no, he shouldn't be allowed to stand unless he apologises?
I think there has to be a very clear and fulsome apology.
Should be allowed to stand as Mayor of London?
Well, if he's no longer a Labour MP, doesn't have the Labour whip, I guess Jeremy Corbyn is a free agent and is able to do whatever he wants to do. But I think what's absolutely clear is that we have an outstanding Mayor of London in Sadiq Khan, and I'm sure that Sadiq would want to look to the future and make sure that London is in the hands of a Labour mayor who's going to actually continue to deliver for the people of London.
Exactly what he said half an hour ago when he was sat there. Good to talk to you.
Thank you very much
indeed. It's great to see you, Mr.